All right, Alder Stevens, we can start with roll call.
Alder Mark Stoyer. He's here.
I am here. I was muted.
Alder Kathy LaFave.
Here.
And Alder John Vanderleest. He's here, right?
I'm not sure if he hears us. Shelby, is he in the room? Can he hear us?
Okay, this is John Vanderleest.
All right.
Okay.
I'm here at, all right.
And myself, Alder Craig Stevens. We're all present.
Want to go back to the agenda here? Yep.
Yep, so the first thing would be the election of the chair and the vice chair for the committee.
I'd like to nominate Mark Stoyer as the chair. John Vanderleest nominating Mark Stoyer. Can you hear me?
Can you hear Vanderleest?
Yes, we can hear. We just need a second.
I'll second.
Okay.
Alder LaFave will second.
Can I nominate myself?
Oh, there you go.
We would have to vote on the first motion and then, or amend the motion.
So are we voting?
You want to have the votes come up, or how are we going to do it verbally?
Actually, sorry, what we can do is we can just take all of the candidates. No seconds are needed.
Okay.
So if we want to have the candidate of Alder Stoyer and Alder Stevens, then everybody can vote respectively who they vote for. We can do a roll call vote.
Okay. You want me to vote now?
If everybody's ready, I can just call the roll call.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Alder Stevens.
Myself.
Alder Vanderleest. Alder Vanderleest.
I vote for Alder Stoyer.
Okay. Alder Stoyer.
I'll vote for Alder Stoyer.
And Alder LaFave.
Alder Stoyer.
All right. Alder Stoyer is elected the chair of policy, protection and policy with 3 votes.
I nominate Craig Stevens for vice chair.
All right. Any other nominations? Okay, so we can maybe just do a voice vote since there's only one. Well, since there's only one candidate, we can just do a voice vote.
Aye. LaFave.
Aye.
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 Vanderleest.
All right, Alder
Stoyer.
Stevens. Okay, Alder Stevens is the vice chair of Protection and Policy Committee. Okay, let's see. The next discussion we have is setting the day and time for the for upcoming meetings. So currently, Protection and Policy meets Mondays at 5:30 p.m. Alder Stoyer, do you want to?
Oh,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm fine with 5:30 on Mondays. If anybody else has a point on that.
I do.
Alder Vanderleest is also comfortable with that time frame.
Alder LaFave is fine on that time.
I'm also fine with that time as well, but my understanding is that we may need to change the time start for the next couple weeks.
Because of planning.
Yes.
Yeah, there are some conflicts.
Right. So the difficulty is that the YouTube streaming can only do one meeting at a time, which is why we can't have two meetings simultaneously happening at the same time. So we may have to do a little bit of movement, but we can always communicate that as soon as we know that there's going to be a conflict. And it also always depends on how lengthy the agenda is going to be. So we anticipated that this one was going to take some time because of the number of communications and things that the committee and constituents are going to want to discuss. So that's why we pushed it up to 3:30. But if moving forward, if everybody's okay with Monday at 5:30, then we will keep that for the future meetings.
Alder LaFave has a question. What Monday of the month?
It's I believe it's the second and the third Monday. So it's always the Monday preceding. I'm sorry.
No, not
Second.
the
This is
Fourth.
Celestine. So it's the second meeting of the month, the second Monday and the fourth Monday for P&P. And Joanne, were you talking, or Attorney Bunker, were you talking about when Plan Commission is the second and third?
No, I misspoke. I meant second and fourth, and it's the Monday immediately preceding a council meeting. I'm not sure what
Right.
Plan Commission schedule is. I know that they typically meet on Mondays, but I wasn't sure if it was every Monday that P&P met.
Yes, and so Plan Commission's schedule is more difficult to change because of notifications to the public regarding decisions that Plan Commission would make. And so the idea for, especially in this time when we are doing virtual meetings, for protection policy, you could change to another day, but you'd still have to be earlier in the day, most likely.
Can I ask Celestine a question?
Absolutely.
On the agendas, it's down for tomorrow night is finance and personnel, and then that's at 4:30, and at 5 o'clock they have down parks. That's going to cause a problem, right?
So what happens is that it's just immediately following. So for INS and parks and then personnel and finance, it should be immediately following. That's what I will look at the agendas right now to confirm that, but that's how we have set those up.
So is finance and personnel first?
Let me just take a look, Alder.
Because they start at 4:30 and you had 5 for parks.
Well, isn't it something that we can deal after P&P?
Yes,
Sure.
It's a different
Sure.
day,
Celestine,
Kathy.
you can email me, Celestine. Just let me know.
I certainly will, Alder.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we are on to the approval of the agenda. I'm just trying to queue it up in Civic Clerk. Alder Steuer is chair. Do you want to proceed with
I would.
calling out the? Okay, perfect.
I would like to get a motion for the approval of the agenda
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
by Stevens and seconded by Vanderleest. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. Approval of the minutes.
I'll move, LaFave moves to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, by LaFave and seconded by Stevens. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, that passes. Next, regular business, number 1. Notice of change of agent for Quick Trip Inc. at 3525 Humboldt Road. Staff?
Yes, so law department has no objection.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Vanderleest, seconded by Stevens. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All
Aye.
opposed? That passes unanimously. Next, we have notice of change of agent for Quick Trip Inc. at 1712 East Mason Street. Staff?
Yes, one second. Yes, law department does not have any objections for this item either.
I'll
Motion to
move
approve.
to accept.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by LaFave, seconded by Vanderleest. Any other discussion? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay, item number 3, consideration with possible action on a request Player 2 LLC at 219 North Washington Street to extend the date of issuance of their Class B combination license until the governor lifts the mandate that bars be closed, granted at the February 10th, 2020 Protection and Policy meeting. Staff?
Yes, so our ordinances require that establishments are operational within 60 days of the granting of the license unless council so extends. Accordingly, the licensee is asking for an extension in light of the emergency orders in place. At this point, staff does not have any objections. It's up to the discretion of the committee.
Can I ask Lieutenant Mahoney, is there anything with the police on this? Do you agree? Lieutenant, is there any issue with that from the police standpoint?
It looks like it needs to be unmuted.
Yeah, Lieutenant Mahoney, you need to unmute.
I'm unmuted.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just,
Okay, so there is no objection from the police department for that due to the COVID-19.
okay, thank you, Lieutenant. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Stevens. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Vanderleest. Okay, second by Vanderleest. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay, next we have number 4, consideration with possible action on a request by Randy Stocker at 1273 Elmore Street to Alder Stoyer to rescind a $624.39 charge for work completed on said property prior to the closing of the sale of the property to Mr. Stocker. Before we continue on this, I am Mr. Stocker's alder, and I will have to recuse myself from this vote. I may be saying some things along, with this item, so I need to recuse myself.
Chairman, can you explain what this charge is and why you're asking for this?
Well, I don't know, Joanne, is Mr. Stocker part of the call-in today?
I believe he is. So it's up to the committee whether we can have, if you'd like to introduce this item and either provide whatever communications you've had with him at this point. You could do that now, or we could start with Mr. Stocker presenting his arguments for appeal, and then inspections can then present their information, and then we can have some time for rebuttal. In the interest of time, I would suggest the committee just setting a time limit for 10 minutes for Mr. Stocker for the appellant, 10 minutes for staff to present, and then 5 minutes each for rebuttal.
Well,
I'd like to hear from the staff first. Chairman Stoyer, I'd like to hear from the staff first and hear their side of this, of what, that would be
All
okay.
right.
I'd like to hear from the staff. Thank you.
I
All
concur.
right, I'm fine with that. I mean, we have, I have an email from Director Grenier, and then there's also information from our inspection department is here as well. Paul is here to speak on it. So I would agree with that. So I would defer over to inspection at this time.
Inspection is on mute.
Joanne?
Yep, I think I can unmute Paul.
Sorry, this is Paul Van Kelster. I didn't prepare a lot for this meeting. The 624, the fee in question isn't ours per se, of closing up the driveway entrance, and it was a DPW process they went through to do that closure. So there really is little on our side. It happened, I believe, in between the sale of the property or after we bought the property.
Can you do a
Joanne?
little more explaining on that, please?
Honestly, I don't have it. I wasn't prepared to speak because I thought it was a DPW, and I know Celestine has had a whole slew of conversations on that topic as well. So I've been out of the loop on this one because it was past the inspection department. It was more between DPW and the complainant.
Joanne?
Yes.
I have an email from Director Grenier, and I'd like to read it to the committee. And then, Mr. Stocker probably could speak after that. So if you got a minute, I will read this.
That's fine. And just moving forward, as Alder Steuer is recused, Alder Stevens, if you will, as vice chair, you can run this item, and then Alder Steuer is essentially participating on behalf of the constituent.
Okay. Can I move forward then
Yes,
with this
please.
letter?
Yep.
Okay. This was written to me from Director Grenier on April 3rd. Then he wrote, Alder Steuer, this is the first I've heard of this situation, but I did a little digging with the files I can see and the information Mr. Stocker provided to you. Based on my research, it appears that the property at 1273 Elmore had a house structure on it that became subject to a raise or repair order. The structure vacant parcel. Per the zoning ordinance, a driveway, which is a curb cut apron and driveway surface on private property, can only exist on a built upon parcel. That's a bit of a colloquialism, but still an accurate interpretation of ordinance. As a result of the structure raising, the driveway, including the apron, had to come out and the curb cut needed to be sealed up. So it was curb replacement. Generally, the driveway removal and curb cut closure are the responsibility of the property owner, just like sidewalk repair. If the property owner fails to complete the work within a specified time period, the city can charge it back. It appears that the bank holding the title elected to let the city complete the work. This is common. The contractor, who is Fisher Ullman, completed the work order associated with closing the curb cut and restoring the terrace under contract with the city. Fisher Ullman submitted an invoice for this work to the city on 11/8 of 2000. This would need to be reviewed by Department of Community and Economic Services, forwarded to finance for payment, and the city would issue an invoice to the property owner. This could easily take a week to 10 days to complete. Once the invoice is sent to the property owner has 30 days to pay the city. Invoices for services provided that remain unpaid after 30 days are added to the property tax bill as a special charge. Outstanding invoices along with liens and unpaid special assessments will show up through the clerk's office under what is commonly referred to as a letter of specials. This is the information Mr. Stocker requested multiple times from the clerk. Until the invoice is sent to the property owner and it then remains unpaid for 30 days, there is no way for the clerk to know there is an outstanding bill on the property. At a minimum, we are looking at December 8th of 2019, assuming DCES, a Fisher Ullman invoice, forwarded it to finance, and an invoice to the property owner were generated on the same day Fisher Ullman created their invoice. In all reality, we are looking at mid to late December before the clerk's office could have been made aware of the invoice from Fisher Ullman. All work completed by Fisher Ullman was to bring the property in conformance with our ordinance. As I mentioned to you, ignorance of the law does not provide a defense from abiding by it. What that means is that the charges are valid against someone. At some point during all of this, the property transferred from a previous owner and Mr. Stocker. This situation of unfortunate timing, the property transfer occurred during the short window between the work being completed and the invoice for the work being issued. Mr. Stocker may or may not have a case against the seller for who is responsible for the cost, but I don't believe there is any way that the city is at fault for failure to disclose nor negligence. The work was necessary for compliance with the code and is a matter between the previous and current property owner. That's the letter. So I would ask ask to open the floor so that Mr. Stocker could reply. And open the floor.
Motion to open the floor.
Okay, well, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Actually, I'm sorry, Alder Steuer, as you're recusing yourself from this
Oh, yeah,
item.
I'm sorry.
Yep. So we need to redo that motion.
I apologize.
It was Alder Vanderleest that made a
Yes.
motion to open the floor.
So we need a different
And I'll
second.
second it. I'll second it.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right, the floor is now open. One moment, and I will unmute Mr. Stocker. All right, Mr. Stocker, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, you can go ahead and proceed with your comments.
Excellent. So I'm not arguing that this work needed to be done. It was just the fact of when it was done that the issue is. So going back to when I was purchasing this lot, there was a house on it. That house was torn down sometime around March of 2019. And I put my offer in and it was signed in September. On September 24th, I received a certified letter that was sent to the title company stating that no special assessment or charges of any kind were approved by the city other than those that were listed on that letter. There was 2 charges that were listed on that letter. One was for the raise, which was $10,191.71, and then some other special assessments for $126.18. I was expected to close on October 10th, and then the closing was pushed because the monies that were being charged were already put on the taxes. And the city stated to the title company that they could not pay them until the tax bill came out because they were put on the tax bill. So I made a bunch of personal phone calls, both to the city clerk's office, inspections, the title company to resolve this. And I was finally able to get a new closing date for basically November 12th. And I had called the clerk's office and they stated that certified letter that was sent to me that states that there are basically no special assessment work that is completed or anything that was approved for charges that were on there. So I closed on the 12th, and then I received the bill in question on December 10th. And so, the director's letter, the city was charged, so invoiced by the subcontractor, the Fisher and Ullman Construction, on the 8th of November. So a couple days before I closed. And so that work on the curb was completed prior to that September day that I got the certified letter. So to me, I'm looking at it and I'm like, you would think that if that work was approved, that they should have known about that. And I guess that's where my issue lies, is not the fact that it needed to be done. It should have been disclosed on that certified letter saying that this is a charge that is pending. And it was not. And so when I closed on this, because the monies had been put on the tax bill already, I closed with a paid in full from the title company, meaning that all of that money special assessments I would be responsible for when the tax bill came out. And I called not once but twice to the city clerk's office, talked to Chris Teskey, and was assured that by what she could see and this letter that there was no charges going to be placed on the property after closing.
I got a quick question, Mr. Stevens. You're the chairperson handling this. I got a quick question for the person involved there.
Go for it.
Okay. Now the bank notified you that there was going to be a $629. What is that figure here? It's $624.39 for the work being done. Did the bank notify you on that?
No, the city did not disclose that to the title company.
How did they happen to hear about it? How did the bank happen to hear about it?
They did not. I received a bill after closing on December 10th that this work was completed, and like I said, I received that bill from the city along with the invoice from the subcontractor explaining that charge.
Okay, I think that's kind of self-explanatory as far as when you bought the property. At that time, there was no charges. The work hadn't been done, and then to bring it up to code.
No,
So,
that was done. The work was done before I closed.
Okay, myself, I feel that it had to be done. Basically, it had to be done, and the charges that were, in other words, the bank got involved as far as they said that they wanted the city to take care of that installation of that curb and gutter. Is that correct?
I can't I have no idea what the city and the bank discussed prior to the closing. I know that this was not title search because the city said that they had no idea that this invoice was coming because it wasn't due yet. So like I said, the work was done and complete and billed prior to my closing on it. So I'm not arguing that the fact that it needed to be done, it was,
No.
And so if the city would have put it on that certified letter, and that certified letter came out September 24th. So.
Completed. When was the work actually done?
So I could give you a ballpark because I lived when I saw the work complete. But I can tell you that the invoice that the subcontractor sent the city is dated 11/8/19, which was.
Did you already own the property at that time?
What's that?
Did you already own that property at that time?
No, that was 4 days before me owning the property,
Okay.
before me closing.
Well, basically, I think it's a prime example of that. Things have to catch up. If they just did the work and they invoiced it out, I think it's just a matter of that they had to catch up to bill it out, and by the time it goes through the system, it takes a little bit longer. So basically, I think that the charges are, and you'll probably have to pay them. I feel you'd have to pay them. That's my opinion.
Any other questions for Randy?
This is Alder Lefebvre. No questions for him, but I have something to comment after.
Okay. Yeah, hold on. I'll take a motion to close the floor.
I'll make a motion to close the floor.
Second.
Okay, Kathy?
Yes. To me, this
I'm
is
sorry, we
another
have to
example.
vote. I'm sorry, Alder Lefebvre, we have to vote. We had a motion and a second.
Oh, yeah.
All those in favor to close the
Aye.
floor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay. My comment is: do you remember back last year we had a similar situation with the guy with the storm sewer? Do you remember that? And again, when he went to look at all the different things that the property had, things that had to be done to the property, and that he also did not, he was also not aware that he had to put that storm sewer in. And then he came to us and said, here I got this, all of a sudden notice that I have to do this. And it wasn't something, cheap. It was an expensive proposition. And again, here's another thing. This should have been noted. This should have been noted when he went to purchase this property. All these things should be, I don't understand why this is something that had to be done. It's an it's in our ordinance. Why that's not noted when people buy property? How many times are we going to come up with this? I don't think this is fair. I'm sorry. I'm going to vote for Mr. Stoker. Maybe it has to go back to the bank. I don't know where it has to go. But we can't continually be doing this to people. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Mike Alder Vanderleest, I'd like to comment. You know, a lot of these things that take place in a real perfect world, you know, you'd like to say that, you know, the Chris Teskey's office has got everything just right up to par. You know, they know every little thing that's going on. But this sounded like the work was going to they had to get done. So that they got the Ullman Construction Company on it to get it done. They completed it and they billed the city for it. And I think it's just a fair judgment that, you know, I'm not trying to, you know, make light of, you know, it's a charge and somebody has to pay for it. I don't think that, you know, like just for example, it's a charge that the city incurred and they did the job. And I think they have to be compensated for what they've done. You know, it's just like if you it's just that simple. In other words, it was done before the actual sale was completed. And I think the gentleman knew that it had to be done. And this is a nice way of saying, well, you know, everything wasn't just up to par, but now I don't want to pay the bill. You know, I think he's got to take in consideration that the city took the time, got the construction company involved. They put in the concrete. They did it. It had to be done anyway, regardless if it was a little bit late or whatever. It would still have to come up to code. And they brought it up to code, and you know, the charge was incurred. If the previous person had to pay it or the person that actually purchased it, I think it's just a matter of, you know, some common sense here and how we're going to go, you know, who's going to pay for it? Is the city going to pay for everything that there's a little glitch in the system? As far as that other gentleman, there was another gentleman that tax money, he owed the tax money, but, you know, we gave him a free pass on it. You know, I think that, you know, you have to take in consideration that it takes time to get things done. And, you know, fair is fair. You know, the work was done. It should be paid for. Simple as that. I mean, I'm not trying to make any trouble, but I'm telling you that's the facts. If you have something fixed and done, it brings it up to code. It makes the street better. And, you know, the city's not in the business just paying all these bills just haphazardly, just going to pay them. Yeah, okay, we're going to be a good guy and pay them. I feel that, you know, we have to, you know, put the bill on to the person that's actually going to benefit from that property. They got the curb and gutter in. They did it. It's done. They should pay for it. Simple as that. Thank you.
Alder LaFave again. The problem is this gentleman did not know that this was going to be done before he actually owned the property. He's not disputing that.
Well, then he has to be brought up. He didn't
up the code, Alder Vanderleest. He didn't dispute that it was in code, but he didn't know about this when he was purchasing it. And this all went through the title, and he pays it. It goes on his taxes, and he pays it that way. And all of a sudden, he gets this bill after the fact. That's the problem I have. I think that we have to set up something in our system that when people go to buy property, that all these things got to come up, because these are all surprises people afterward.
Well, I tell you what, when you prices, believe me, if you purchased any property lately, there's things that have to be taken care of, and some of it's done at the last minute. I don't think we can just be a big brother to everything that comes across the table here and say, well, we're not going to charge them. The city got charged for that curb and gutter. Somebody's got to pay for it. That's how I feel. And you know, as far as, you know, things happen, you know, the city can't be liable for everything. The property had to be up to code. It had to be fixed, and then we fixed it. And there's a bill for it. Are you going to say, well, I'm just going to skip that bill? I can't understand that part of it, you know? Myself personally, I feel that, you know, the charge is there, he got the curb and gutter fixed, he should pay it. Simple as that. Thank you.
All right, Alder Dorf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two items. First, I just am a little confused because I thought this was something that went through DPW, and I keep hearing the clerk's office being mentioned. Can someone clarify that for me? Wasn't this a DPW charge, not anything that had to do with the?
This is Vanessa. I can speak to it.
Thank you, Vanessa.
So the reason this is where it is because it's a unique situation. So yes, the charge originated with DPW because they're the ones who did the work. And the reason that this ended up where it is because when the gentleman was looking to purchase the property, he obtained a certified letter from the clerk's office stating what was on the city's records at the time as to outstanding assessments and taxes. It's something that we provide as a courtesy to people when they are closing on houses or properties, and it's standard practice. Now, the thing that is missed in this discussion is that as part of the letter, we do state in there that the charges that are identified are current at the time of the letter,
right?
And it doesn't address whether any additional ones will be assessed after the letter is provided.
And that's exactly what happened, right, Attorney Chavez?
Correct.
Those were assessed after. And in the second question I have, in the normal course of matters, would the person who sold the property have been responsible for that fee?
Yes.
And so is there any recourse to get that fee from that person? Rather than from, yeah, go ahead.
Because it went through, I believe it went through a foreclosure, the chances of recovery are pretty low. But that would be the proper party, is to go back to the previous owner who necessitated the work in the first place. The city would never be responsible for this charge, as Alder Vanderleest has stated. The work was completed because it was required, and that is something we always assess back to the owner. And so this is a unique situation in the sense that they're provided as a courtesy to help people get to closing. We state on there that it is possible that additional charges may be coming forward, and in this circumstance it actually did, just because of the timing of when the work was completed. There was a lag time in when those invoicings got to the place of being placed on the clerk's list, but it wasn't an extreme delay. It was, just normal par for the course timing situation.
Thank you. So then, I mean, I'm not in the committee, but I'd like to make a suggestion. You know, in the past, it seems that this isn't the city's fault. This isn't Mr. Stocker's fault. It's something that happened. It was accidental. And at times what we have done is split the charge. And that's something that I wonder if you guys want to consider, just splitting it between, because Mr. Stocker will benefit from it because he needs it. He needs it to make his property whole, but it should have been on, not that it should have been, it technically didn't belong to him. It belonged to the prior owner. Not get money, and the city will end up paying for it anyway. So that would just be my suggestion. I've just seen that done in the past by committee. Thank you for letting me speak, Mr. Chair.
So Attorney Chavez, I have a question. If I heard you, this gentleman was made aware that there would be potential charges coming?
Every letter that we provide indicates this is a letter that's accurate up until the date that it is provided. And so it's processed after that date could apply.
Okay, thank you. Alder Randy Scannell.
Thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair. Just a couple of things. One, I believe in the past, the issue that Alder Lefebvre brought up, that issue, we did deny that. And I do believe it would be wise to be consistent. And also, I don't think it's wise for the city to accept responsibilities and liabilities it's not responsible for. We are not liable here. Yes, this is a sticky situation where things fall through the holes. That happens. But if we were liable, if it was our fault, I would be all for full reimbursement or even a half reimbursement if we're not completely at fault or whatever. But the city is not liable at all here. And I just don't see why we should accept any liability. I've sympathized with Mr. Stocker, but we are not, we just can't be accepting these responsibilities that aren't our responsibilities. We've got enough responsibilities of our own that we do have to, obligations we do have to fulfill. So I'm not in favor of this at all. So that's my 2 cents. And also, Alder Steuer tried to call you, remember, to announce that everything here is just a recommendation.
Yes, I'll do that. Thank you. Thank you, Randy.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, thank
I
you,
got
Randy.
one quick question, and also, Alter Stevens, I got one quick question there. I want to
Go
just
ahead.
make a statement. Whenever the city or the clerk or the Department of Public Works sends out a letter saying that, this is what they think are the assessments, they should be in big, bold, red letters that, there's a possibility that could be additional charges. And, we're not aware of them at this time, but there may be additional charges before you close. I think the city has to make it more clear that, there might be other charges on to bring things up to code. And I think we got to make a real effort to anybody that comes and asks about they're going to buy a property and they want to know what the assessments are. They also should see that in big, bold red letters that, there might be some other charges here involved with the closing or whatever. And I think that should be, very well noted. Otherwise, it creates a lot of problems for us at the committee level because we're trying to, say, yeah, we're going to let this fee go or we're going to let that fee go. I think it's buyer beware is the number one. And then, that the city makes their disclosure that there might be other charges to bring things up to code and it has to be done and somebody's got to pay for it. And the city can't be liable for all these things that are coming across. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
This is Alder LaFave.
Go for it.
I just don't want this to happen to someone else. I mean, $600 some dollars might not sound like a lot, but for some people, it's quite a bit, and we could end up with could be thousands of dollars coming up. We have to do a better job at letting people know what's happening with property. If this was in code, this is something that the city knew that had to be done. I just have a hard time with this. I know the city can't afford to always be saying, okay, but we also have to do a better job as a city for our residents. I'm just afraid this is going to come up again and again, and people are not going to be very happy with us. This is something that we have to do due diligence ourselves as a city for our residents.
That's fine.
So I thank Alder Barb Dorf for her suggestion. I'll make a motion that we, because of the situation, that we split it 50-50 and the city 50% from the former owner, who should actually be responsible for the whole thing. But I would make that motion.
Just one clarification. This is Attorney Chavez again. We would not be the ones going after the prior owner. We are not in privity with them. We are only in privity at this point with the current owner. And so the current owner would have to go after those funds from the prior owner.
And that complicates things.
I just want to make one quick comment. Alder Vanderleest, if that's okay, Alder Stevens?
Yes.
If that was in the letter, in other words, that they received, that there could be other possible charges, I think that, that pretty much sets the city that, we're not liable for this. that there might be other charges. But what I'm emphasizing is that if that was sent in the letter, that's the, and, just that simple. That, in other words, there might be other charges, and here was a charge that came up. And as far as, our citizens, everybody wants to represent their citizens, but the thing is that we're going to have the disclosure in any letter that's given out that, there might be other charges. So we're not liable for all these things. Just that simple. In other words, we're putting a disclosure on there that there might be other charges. So buyer beware. That's what I'm saying right there. And if that was on the letter, pretty much says that, there might be other charges, and there was another charge, and it was this curb and gutter, and the city fixed it and they paid for it. So I don't think the city should be for that. If that was in the letter saying that, that's disclosure, then I'd have to say that they'd have to pay the fee. In other words,
Alder
just that simple.
Stevens. Alder Stevens.
I am agreeing with John and Barb and Randy that I don't think the city should be responsible for this full amount. But I see that Alder Scandal wants to speak.
I'd just like to respond to Alder LaFave in that these transactions include many parties, and the city cannot assume responsibility for other parties. We are not responsible for the coordination of everything. That's not how the system works. There are cracks in there, and the buyer has to do their due diligence and check out every crack. We're just one part of the process. I think too much emphasis is being placed on us. We are not responsible for the other parties, and there's nothing we can do about those other parties. So I appreciate Mr. Stocker's quandary, position. But really, he should be going after the former property owner, not us. That would be the appropriate course of action, even though I recognize in this case it's probably not going to get him much. But to me, that's the appropriate course. We are not liable for other people. We are not responsible for other people, and we shouldn't be resuming those liabilities and responsibilities. So that's it. Thank you.
Did we have a motion on the floor, though?
Yes. So we have a motion to reduce the fees by half, as moved by Alder LaFave. We do not have a second.
Is there a second?
Hearing no second, I would say that fails for lack of a second. And now we can take another motion.
I'll entertain another motion.
Motion to receive it and place on file as far as, that we won't take any action on that. They have to pay the fees. You'd have to pay the fees. That'd be my motion.
Would that be the correct motion, Joanne?
We can either do that or we can do a motion to deny the request.
I'd entertain the motion to deny the request.
Second.
Alder Vanderleest, would you like to amend your motion?
No, not, just to deny the request would be fine.
Okay, and then we would need a second.
Deny the request.
Can I second that?
Yes.
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a motion by Alder Vanderleest and second by Alder Stevens to deny. And that is the motion on the floor.
Do we need to vote?
Yes.
Vote?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and Alder Steuer abstained. That motion passes. Or Alder LaFave, did you vote?
No, I didn't vote. I'll vote no.
Okay.
So 2-1.
Alder Stevens just reminded that it goes to council.
Oh, okay. So everything that we discussed here today does go to council, which is on May 5th for final approval.
Yes, and that motion did pass 2-1 with Alder LaFave voting no and Alder Steuer abstaining.
Okay. We can continue?
Yeah.
One moment, I just need to catch up in Civic Clerk. All right, we are on item number 5.
Okay. Number 5, consideration with possible action on a request by Alderman Brunette to refund the reinspection fees at 2468 West Point Road and for the city to appeal to the federal government to allow for the property owner's shed to remain. Staff?
Yes, one second. At this point, I'm not sure whether we would like inspections to speak on this first, or whether Alder Brunette wanted to introduce the item as it was brought. It wasn't filed by the property owner, but via communication filed by Alder Brunette.
Alder Brunette, would you care to speak on this initially?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. This has been an issue that I've been assisting a constituent with since September, October. I've been to his property several times, and he has been very complimentary towards city staff, but he's reaching sort of a endpoint on allowing a shed to be on his property. He has he had a shed installed on the property, according to him, with the proper permits. Federal government has stepped in and said that the shed is within a floodplain and he needs to remove the shed. So he has been receiving multiple reinspection fees from our inspection department. But as far as he's concerned, it's an open issue with the federal government. He has gone down several paths trying to get a clarification from the federal government, because it's his understanding that, consistent with federal law, that the type of structure and where it's located on his property, that he should be able to keep the shed in its position. He has put quite a bit of work into the shed, quite an expense to him, and according to him, he has done everything the correct way. So he's going through several layers of appeals, but since then, we have gone out there and re-inspected several times, to the point where I think he's paid, I want to say, over $1,000 in inspection fees. Our staff would have to clarify that. Now, Mr. Dudek is his name, Thomas Dudek. If we were in better circumstances and not having to meet this way, he would have liked to have met the committee in person. He's also a long-haul trucker, and he's currently called me earlier today from Vermont. So one thing I would like to do, at the very minimum, one thing I'm hoping that the committee agrees to, is to stop the reinspection fees, at least until he has an opportunity to get the proper permissions from the federal government that he says that he should be able to get. So with that, staff can fill in the details that perhaps I'm missing, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if necessary, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Jesse. So let me, Alder Brunette, if I could ask, you're asking to just stop the reinspection fees at this time, and you're not asking for to rescind any of that, are you?
Well, I would love to have if in fact the federal government does say that the shed could remain, then I would love to have the reinspection fees to be, refunded. That was my communication originally. Property owner, what's funny is he's okay with not having the reinspection fees refunded, but he would like, above all, to have the shed remain, because to remove the shed, he'd be having to pay several $1,000s that he paid to install it. That would basically be thrown away, because he doesn't want to move it. He doesn't think it can be moved. So to answer your question, I know I'm not giving you a straight answer. He's not here, so I can't. He wants to be able to keep the shed, but at the very minimum, an action to stop the reinspection fees until at least June, so he has enough time to figure this out when he returns back to Green Bay.
I guess I wanted to follow up on that. Have you had a chance to talk with inspection with Paul or anybody else there and find out?
Through Ms. Rainier Wig, Paul Neumeier, we were trying to get this to be on the Board of Appeals, which would be, in my opinion, the proper recourse. But I don't think that, according to Mr. Neumeier, that it doesn't belong there, that there's it doesn't meet the threshold to appear before that committee. I think the city's position is the shed just needs to go because it's in the floodplain. There's no, it's a black and white. So they've been great. I'm not going to lie. The city staff, as always, is great. I mean, they're interpreting what they need to, consistent with city codes and ordinances, and can't necessarily fight the federal government if the federal government thinks they're right. But I at least would like the city, based on the recommendation of the committee, to possibly appeal to the federal government. I have a stack of papers that Mr. Dudek left for me. I need to make copies and present that to city staff so they can go through it and review it as appropriate. But it was longer than I thought. I would read it to you, but it's numerous pages that he's researched.
Mr. Stoller, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Alder Vanderleest.
I'd make a motion that we stop the fees and give them a 90-day period to see if he can't work it out with the federal government. And after 90 days, we should know what's going on at that time. That would be my motion, would be to fees and give them 90 days to get the communication to the federal government and see how they weigh in on it. And then at that time we can, look at it again within 90 days. And I think that would be.
I'll second that.
Okay.
I would like to hear from the inspector first.
Yeah, I was going to ask for that as well. Is Paul still here? Van Kelster?
This is Paul Van Kelster.
Go ahead, Paul.
The fees have actually stopped. He had come into the office one day, and Paul Newmeyer, myself, and I believe Brenda was up there, and we all spoke with him. We all went over the options. And at that time, we said, you know what, we'll stop the fees and we won't charge you. Work with that and the federal, your submission to them to see if the shed can stay or not. We really have no jurisdiction on whether we can make the determination that it can stay. That's a federal issue. And I see Paul Newmeyer join the meeting as well. He could comment more on that. But for clarity, the inspection stopped in January when he came into the off time.
Look. Thank you, Paul. Mr. Newmeyer, is Mr. Newmeyer there? I'd like to hear from him too.
I'm here. Are there any questions you have about that I can address?
Well, I think it was stated already, Paul, that, it's a federal issue and that, it cannot go to the Board of Appeals because of what was stated here. And I just wanted to hear that from you as well.
Yeah, it's a federal issue, but it's also a state and local issue. So the city of Green Bay adopts, the FEMA maps. And in this particular case, Mr. Dudek did have a permit from the city to put up the shed, but he chose to put it in a floodway. So both the floodplain and the floodway impact his property. He put it in the floodway where we can't issue a permit for that. And there really is no recourse, at least locally, that I'm aware of. I know he's looked at several different avenues to try and get that appealed through others, but it's really I think something he has to deal with between himself and FEMA, and there really is no other recourse at this point that we can offer.
Well, Paul, can I ask another question? I mean, when he came in, he must have come in for a site plan, correct?
He did in August of 2018, and then we discovered this maybe in December of 18 and found it was put in the wrong spot since that time.
Well, I guess the question I had is that when he decided to build this where he wanted to build it, I wasn't sure, was he fully aware of the floodway or floodplain where he was building it? Or is this something that the city could have told him, said, nope, you cannot go in this area, you have to go back here? Was he aware of that according to your records?
I can't speak to that directly, but I suspect he was made aware of that in the sense that just behind his home is where the floodplain is, and where the floodway is, there's a very small portion that is out of the floodplain, and that's where the permit was issued and where he chose to put the structure to get the permit. So I think if he, I think he put it where he got the permit to put it where he would have been compliant, so to speak. So I think he was aware of the floodplain standards at that time.
I guess that's an issue that I have, is that if he had a site plan to build it in a certain spot and then he moved that possibly to another spot, I would have an issue with that. And I'd have to talk to Alder Burnett about that as well. I'd like him to weigh in as well. But does the committee have any other comments on this?
No.
I'd like to know, what is the current inspection fees at total-wise?
He had 30 re-inspections for $1,500. And we talked about that as well when he came in January, and he told us the same thing. The fee, the $1,500 wasn't the issue. He just wanted to leave his shed where he chose to put it, like Paul Newmeyer was saying, versus where he told us he was going to put it. He didn't want to chop down some trees, so he moved it back in the yard and put it in the floodway.
Chair Stoyer, when Alder
Yeah.
Stephen, if you could recognize me at some point,
Yeah,
I can wait
go
until
ahead.
the other.
Go ahead, Alder.
Is Alder Stevens, are you done?
I'm finished
Oh,
right
I'm
now.
sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So I want to make sure I'm clear that the last I had heard about the reinspection fees, that we were going to stop them and begin again in April. I didn't realize that. I thought from April 1st was when Mr. Dudek said that the city was going to start re-inspecting. So I'm actually quite happy that, we haven't re-inspected or charged fees since January. Honestly, I do believe him. He showed me page upon page of letters he's written to Congressman's office, and he referenced something in the federal code that would justify him keeping the shed. So he has been working through a very bureaucratic system to get the proper permissions. So I guess not to waste too much time with the committee, as long as there's no further reinspection fees, I'd be fine. We need to resolve it at some point. Either the shed has to go or he has to get permission from the federal government. So I get the motion to hold, as long as there's a reassurance that the inspection department won't go out for at least another month or two. The guy's been driving truck like crazy due to Corona, and I don't want to have this be another burden for him to have to handle from outside of the city.
Okay, thank you, Alder. We do have a motion on the floor from Alder Vanderleest, correct?
That's
We have
correct.
yes, we have a motion to hold for 90 days.
Do we have a second?
Yes, Alder Lefebvre.
Seconded.
Okay.
Yes. So we have
All right,
a
then.
motion by,
I would
sorry.
ask for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, next, number 6. Consideration with possible action on general ordinance number 11-20, an ordinance to amend section 1.40 subsection 4, GVMC relating to records retention. Staff.
Hello, everyone. This is Lindsay Mather.
Hi, Lindsay.
So as you probably remember, I've been working for quite some time now on the records retention schedule and getting that updated. In looking at the best way to get that done, I revisited the provision of our code that allows for amending the records retention schedule, and it currently says that the schedule will be adopted by ordinance, but it really should be adopted by resolution so that it doesn't require an ordinance change every time that we update the full schedule. So basically, this is just a rather straightforward ordinance to change the provision of our code that would allow for us to pass the records retention schedule by resolution of Common Council rather than by ordinance. And as soon as we get this enacted, I will be back with the full revised records retention schedule.
Well, thank you, Lindsay. Is there any questions from the committee? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion.
Would the motion be to receive and place on file, or to?
Well, let's to amend section 1.4.
To amend. Okay, I'll make a motion to amend.
it would, I'm sorry, it would just be a straight motion to approve the
Okay.
amendment.
Oh, to approve.
All right.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, Lefebvre made the motion, second by Vanderleest. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously. All right, next we have consideration with possible action on a request by Alder Steuer to do a study with concerns with 5G network health risks. Before I continue on this, Joanne,
Yes.
Attorney Bungert, is there anybody here to speak on that, a citizen? I just wanted to know if there was anybody out in the queue.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
All right, well, it's from a citizen, a constituent that brought this forward, and she was sending me all sorts of articles and talking about 5G network health risks and such. And like any other topic, you can get many, many different types of materials that talk for or against some kind of a product. And I realize we don't really have a health department, but I was wondering how we could proceed with this as far as getting some information out there. I don't know if this is something that would have to go to the Brown County Health Department per se, but I would like to have some work done by staff who kind of move this forward just to see what issues might exist with this. Could you advise me on that?
I think, I'm sorry, there's a little bit of feedback. I think if we just do a motion to refer to staff, I'm not entirely sure if this would be something that IT would be looking into as far as the 5G network.
Right. Okay. I would ask for a motion to refer it to staff.
Motion to refer to staff.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Stevens moved it, and second by Vanderleest. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That moves forward. Thank you. And like I said, these are
Mark?
Yes,
Mark?
go ahead.
I think Alder Gerlach wanted to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see her. When I look at this board, I don't see that coming up. So you must have that. I don't know if I do.
So you can see him waving.
Oh yeah, well, I only have you and me on here right now. So Alder Gerlach?
Thank you.
Sure.
And I wanted to speak before you voted. It might be a moot point now, but I do have a little background information on this topic, and I just wanted to share it with you because it might have affected your vote. The 5G bill was introduced to Congress last spring by Mr. Cornyn of Texas. It was finalized in December, and it was passed by the full Senate on March 4th of this year. This whole concern about health risks of 5G apparently started as a Facebook post with someone claiming that there were all kinds of health issues with the 5G network. And it also has been credibly linked to some Russian propaganda. So I have researched this, and I haven't found any credible evidence that there is really any health risk, that this was put forward on Facebook as a suggestion that someone was using the coronavirus pandemic as a cover to pass legislation about on a harmful technology. So I just think you ought to know that.
Well, I appreciate that, Alder Gerlach. I mean, our committee has dealt with a number of health type issues. Fluoride, for example, is one, and it's amazing how many arguments you get on both sides. It is hard to cut through everything, but I agree with. I'm glad you. I think for the sake of what we brought forward is just to if it comes back that there's no credence to this, I'm fine with that. I just wanted to have it aired out, and if that's the case, that would be the case, but I appreciate your comments. So, are we good, Alder Burnett? I'm sorry, Attorney Bungert, are we good on that?
Yes, we are good. We are on to, oh, I'm sorry.
This is Vanessa Chavez.
Yeah.
I just want to make one comment. If we're looking into the health of something, we should probably send this or ask the public health department at the county to look into it, since they're the ones who actually have health people on their staff.
Right. And I did that initially. So if it's a case, Attorney Chavez, that it goes to you and then you send it over, is that okay?
We can certainly ask for them to provide input. I don't know if they will if it's not an official item in front of them. Okay,
well, and then I suppose, we have two county supervisors on our on our committee here, so I could talk to them as well. Is that something, Alders, Vanderleest and Lefebvre, that you would look at? Is that something that you think should go forward?
I would recommend we send it to the county health department and ask them, if there's bad health effects from the 5G, or if it's, in other words, let them give us some information on it. I would definitely be forward, look, in other words, support that as far as if there's any health risk, that we could be aware of it. That would be my thoughts.
Well, then that's fine, but like Attorney Chavez said, is we don't have that capability here at the city. So I'm wondering if you would have to take that as a communication to the county.
Sure, we can take it to I will do it. That'd be fine.
Okay. All right.
I can also support taking it to the county, but I'm surprised that we cannot make a motion to ask the county. Attorney Chavez. I'll do as you believe, it should be done. I can definitely take it with John to the county.
Okay. Attorney Chavez, does that help with, or how do you want to deal with that?
We don't have any authority over anything the county does, so we'd be basically asking or enacting a resolution asking them to take it up. Otherwise, the easier process is for somebody, for one of the county directors to actually just take this matter before them.
So I'm just wondering if we should just receive and place this on file and then just have the county supervisors bring it forward. Would that be the best way?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So somebody make a motion to receive and place on file unless there's other questions or answers here.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Do we have a second? Second. Vanderleest made the motion, seconded by Lefebvre. Any other discussion? All in favor? Nope.
There's really quickly, do you need to reconsider the previous vote? Because you already voted on this item?
Well,
yes, I would say yes. So can we go ahead and do that?
Yes, so we need to do a motion to reconsider first.
Motion to reconsider.
Okay, by Stevens, seconded by Vanderleest. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That passes. Okay. So
And
go
then,
ahead.
yep, and then another motion to receive and place on file.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Second.
Okay, by Stevens, the motion, seconded by Lefebvre. All in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you. All right, moving along here. Number 8.
I'm sorry, Alder, 1 second.
I'm sorry.
Kathy Lefebvre, I want to welcome you to our committee, by the way, as well.
Oh,
aboard.
Yes, it's a new committee for me. I have to get used to this one.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for coming over.
All right, we are on number 8.
All right. Consideration with possible action on a request by Alder Steuer to create a Green Bay City resolution to the state of Wisconsin asking Governor Evers to designate retail workers as first responders, thus opening up possible health and financial benefits. I'll speak briefly on this. Let's see. There's been some, CNN wrote a story called Grocery Stores Demand First Responder Status for Their Workers. As you look at all the various mandates and proclamations that have come out over time, there's no denying the fact that nurses and doctors and police and fire are in the line of fire. They're the top first responders in many respects, but there are many other businesses that are essential that need help, and folks like grocery stores and other retail, trucking, other types of positions, they're in harm's way as well. And Alder Scannell mentioned to me that we changed this to include retail workers. So I guess what I doing some work on it, but my feeling is that I would like law department to look at this and see if we can kind of put something together. You know, I would refer it to law department unless other people have some things they'd like to speak on.
This is Lieutenant Mahoney. Could I speak on this?
Yes. Yes, go ahead, Lieutenant.
I realize that, yes, our retail workers, grocery stores, truck drivers are performing an essential function, and I would say they're frontline workers. I could tell you, you will probably have a huge pushback from both police, fire, and rescue for designating them as first responders. Us as police, fire, rescue, if there is an incident that happens, whether it's a fire, a mass shooting, we are required by law to rush to that. A grocery store clerk, as they are performing a very essential service right now and they are a frontline worker, they don't have that. So we take the designation of being a first responder very serious, and it's very near and dear to us. And I could tell you that if you took a poll of every single police and fireman at the city of Green Bay, they would, I would say, highly oppose this, as it's diminishing the service that we are required by law and through our oaths that we took to protect the citizens of Green Bay. I realize the intent behind it, but I don't think first responder should be the word that's used. Frontline worker, essential worker, but first responder, and I discussed this with the chief and Commander Warwick, is not a word that we would want put out there for people that aren't in a position that police, fire, and rescue are in.
Okay, duly noted, Lieutenant. I was wondering, Alder Scannell, are you here?
Yes,
I don't know if
I'm here.
Yeah, you mentioned something to me about changing it to retail, and do you have any thoughts on this at all?
Well, I would agree with first responder is probably not the appropriate word. I think frontline, or I think some of the suggestions that Lieutenant Mahoney made are quite good, and I think that is more accurate and more appropriate.
All right, well, thank you, Alder. Committee,
Alder
do you have any?
Hold on, Alder Dorf wants to speak.
Oh, sorry, Alder Dorf?
Hi, I just wanted to say that I've been watching quite a bit of information, and I think that the term essential worker has been used to describe those frontline workers. And I would agree that it is different from a first responder. I don't agree that it diminishes the first responder, but I do agree that probably essential worker is a better term. Thank you.
Okay, Alder Dorf, I was going to ask you, do you feel that, the city needs to put something forward to the state just to say that, or is that, do you think that language is already out there?
I feel like it's out there. I think that they're looking at them, but I'm this one isn't that critical. I would be open to either.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Committee, anybody else on the committee have anything to say?
Mark, what are you looking for? This is Alder Vanderleest. What are you looking for a?
Well, you know what? After listening to Lieutenant Mahoney, this was, I was just looking at this from some articles and that I've read, and, it's like anything else. You can ask 10 people, what is important? Are we first responders, or are we essential workers, et cetera? I think there's a lot of definitions that are flying around out there, and, I think Lieutenant Mahoney put it in perspective for me. So I'm good with that. I guess I just wanted to make sure that, that other essential businesses are out there. And I think with, I think it was Declaration 28 by the governor. I think that's state. I'm fine with that.
Do you want to just have it receive and place on file then, Mark?
Yeah, I would say
yes. That motion then to receive and place on file.
Okay, by Vanderleest motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Stevens. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that passes. All right. Number 9. A request by Alder Burnett for consideration with possible action on Green Bay Common Council to begin meeting a minimum of twice a month effective June of 2020. There are too many critical issues requiring attention and action to meet once a month. We answer to the public, and more regular meetings are necessary and convenient for the public. Alder Burnett?
I think the exception of Alder Gerlach, we all know we have discussed this a few times at City Council within the last few years. I know the current meeting schedule was discussed and the current meeting time of starting at 6 o'clock was voted on early in our last term, so about 2 years from this time. Never really sat well with me that some months we only meet one time, specifically summer months. And I'm looking through the calendar of meetings for the next several months. May we're meeting twice, June we're meeting twice. One of those meetings is specifically for liquor licenses. July 21st is the only meeting in July, one meeting in August, one in September, two in October, one in November, two in December. Just my honest opinion that when we have constituents who have concerns that come up that funnel through the committee meeting, sometimes they have to meet once a month of the full city council meeting. And if I have an issue or concern and I want my city government to address it and have resolution of my issue, one time a month is just not sufficient. Now, each alder can have different opinions and I respect all of their opinions. I would encourage the city council going forward that we meet the first and third Tuesday of the month as we have in the past. And one clarifying question I guess I need for the city attorney is who sets the meetings? Is that the prerogative of the mayor or the city council? So Alder, go ahead.
The council approves calendar at the beginning of the year.
Okay. Would that be able to be revised and voted on by this current city council?
I will have to look into it.
Thank you. So those are my comments, Alder Steuer.
Okay, thank you for Alder Dorf.
Just one clarification. We do meet twice in November, Alder Burnett, because November 2nd is the joint finance and personnel. So we've already, got that meeting there too.
Thank you. You're correct.
All right, well.
This is Alder LaFave.
Yes, go ahead, Alder.
Thank you. I believe, yes, I think we should change it now if we can. Depends on what the law department comes up with to see how we can change this. I think because right now we're in a different situation. I don't think people are going to be taking vacation time and then I think we had voted for summer to have the one in, June, July, August. I don't know, we did September, but because of people taking vacation time, and that's not just the alders, but it's also staff trying to, arrange everybody time to take time off. But because of the COVID-19, I don't think people are going to be taking vacation. So I would definitely be in support of changing the schedule right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on the committee or other alders?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, Alder Weary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I know. Thank you, Alderman Burnett, for bringing this forward. I think I've talked about this probably ad nauseum through the years. If memory serves me right, back when I first started, I think we skipped maybe July and January, maybe another month if we had to. But it seems like more and more we have one meeting a month, especially for this year's schedule. So we can eke that back more towards 2 a month. I think that serves the public much better. That's what we're here to do, is serve them, not work around our schedules. Thanks.
Right. Thank you,
I got
Alder
one
Weary.
quick comment, Alder Steuer.
Yes, go ahead, Alder. Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask our attorney, is City Hall going to be closed on Friday afternoons through the summer months now? I just wanted to ask that question.
That is a question for either the mayor's office or HR.
Okay, all right. In other words, that's all. I just wanted to, find out if that was going to be the plan for this summer or not. So we can wait to hear on that one. We can, we'll just keep our ears open on that one. Thank you, Attorney.
All right. Well, listening to the committee and some of the other alders, I concur with Alder Burnett and Alder Weary. I've been on council now for almost 8.5 years now, and I feel that we should be meeting more often. So it sounded like Attorney Chavez said that there still has to be something done on their end to change that. So Attorney Chavez, how would you ask that we proceed with this? Because I think we'd like to vote on something like this. I mean, we could make a motion right now and see if that would work. I would entertain someone to make the motion on the committee.
Well, until we know the proper process, and I do need to do some research on it, I would recommend holding until the next meeting so that we have that clarified.
All right.
I'll make a motion
to hold this.
Alder Burnett, what did you say?
Well, I'm sorry, if you want to make a motion, that's fine, but I would like to speak to what Attorney Chavez just said.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, we could hold it for the next committee meeting, but I think a more appropriate and timely motion to make sure we start meeting, twice a month in June. It could be to make a recommendation to meet twice a month. And then when we meet at full council, if that's out of order or not the proper way, then we could, adjust it at that time. To wait for another committee meeting, I think it's something she could get the answer on prior to our full city council meeting. It's your committee. You can make the motion how you choose, but that's just what go ahead.
Attorney Chavez?
Yes, sir. I was saying I can try to get you an answer by council. I can't guarantee I'll have an answer for you. The law department is pretty slammed right now because everybody who isn't able to do work outside is sending work to us.
Well, could we do a motion to hold with the caveat of Alder Burnett's suggestion?
I would like to make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
I would require that we hold this until our next protection policy meeting so the attorney can have enough time to present their case to us.
I'll second that motion.
Alder Burnett, are you fine with that?
Fine. That's fine. Committee's decision. I'm okay with that.
All right. Okay. Any other? Okay, we had Alder Stevens made the motion. It was seconded by Alder Vanderleest. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That passes unanimously. All right. Number 12. Oh, I'll wait for you. Attorney Bungard, are you ready yet?
Yes, actually, we're on item number 10.
Oh, we are.
Yep.
I noticed that my agenda's flipped around a little bit here.
Yes.
Okay. Number 10, consideration with possible action on a request by Alder Dorff to form an ad hoc elections committee for the duration of the COVID-19 national crisis. The purpose of said committee, under the direction of the Green Bay City Clerk, would be to proactively assist the clerk to plan for the November 2020 election and have the primary goal of obtaining positive suggestions and action items to improve the process of holding elections that occurred during the COVID-19 outbreak. Alder Dorff.
Thank you. And I think if you open up in your agenda packet, you'll see the whole motion. That's part of the motion, but it is not the complete motion that was on the agenda. It's within the packet. And here are my thoughts. I would like to see this authorized as quickly as possible because this is only a committee, an ad hoc committee that would meet for a short period of time, possibly only 2 or 3 times. And we need to have some feedback. If we have this committee, we need to have it at the latest by June so that we're ready for the August election, so that we've done some groundwork. We've looked at some options. I even suggest that if we would have maybe 2 alders on this committee. I would like to be on the committee. I would like an alder such as Alder Weary might like to be on this committee too, that we could work together on it. I'm not sure how we would go about composing it, but however we do it, I think we need to do it quickly if we're going to have any effect on the next election, which is in August. And then November, we're probably still going to be under this COVID emergency somewhat in November. There are things we can do in August, for example, holding elections at schools that we couldn't possibly do in November once schools are in session. So, there are things that this committee with a group of people can think about. Maybe even giving the makeup of the committee, the responsibility to the alders and the city clerk, some way that it doesn't have to be just kind of micromanaged, by council approving every person on this committee. That isn't going to be a long-standing committee, ad hoc, a few months.
It'd be advisory, I would think.
Advisory, is that a good way to put it, an advisory committee?
Right, so if Alderdorf, were you thinking of having it set up in such a way that you would talk to P&P, the committee here, or would it be to the council? What's your take as far as how you would like to, advise, so to speak? Would it be just to our committee, then we'd advise to the council, or?
Well, here again, I wouldn't mind going to P&P, but here again, we're in a time crunch. And I think maybe committee of the whole, might be an appropriate place for this to go. So it doesn't have to be held up. And I see we have 2 meetings scheduled for June. Luckily, even though one is for liquor licenses, it doesn't have to just be for liquor licenses. Right. So luckily we have 2 meetings in May and in June where we could come to council and actually get some work done, on this committee.
Well, I like I like this myself. I like what you brought forward. Alder Weary. Alder Weary?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, did you want to speak?
Oh, no, I think it's a great idea. I'd be happy to volunteer if you need somebody.
Okay, I just saw your name come up here, so I thought I'd check. Any other alders or committee members? Anybody would like to weigh in on this? I personally like this idea.
I'd like to speak.
Go ahead, Alder Lefebvre.
Yes, I want to thank Alder Dorf for bringing this up. This is a very good idea because we have to be proactive on this. We don't want anything to happen like happened with our spring election. And I didn't have time yet, but I am going to send a suggestion into our clerk, Chris Teskey. I had some ideas, and I think this is an excellent. It's very proactive, and let's get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Stevens?
I also feel like this would be a correct move to move forward so we can help out with our elections, and especially for Chris. So I'm all for Barb on this.
Yeah.
But I do see Lynn Gerlich would like to speak.
Oh, okay. Alder Gerlich?
Yes, okay. I just wonder, just a question. I have been told by a pretty good source that the mayor is forming an elections commission that might be aimed at doing the same thing. And I'm just asking if anyone knows if that's true, because you wouldn't want to be having 2 bodies working on the same thing. That's all.
It's news to me. I don't know if anybody else has heard that.
I haven't heard anything.
I haven't either.
Celestine?
Word.
Celestine, are you there? Okay.
Vanessa, do you know?
I do not.
Okay.
All right. Well, like I said, all of us alders have had a lot of comments from a lot of folks over this election, and with the pandemic and everything else that's going on, a number of us were campaigning during this epidemic, so it's been hard for a lot of us. So I think the sooner we can get to something, the better. I like Alder Dorf's tack as far as moving forward with a committee of the whole. So with that being said, I would entertain a motion for someone to bring something forward.
Wait,
Celestine?
Yeah, something about my understanding. Hold on, she texted.
Oh.
Her understanding is that the mayor is supportive of Alder Dorf's idea.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're getting it, Craig. I'm not getting any of that on my meetings.
That's all right.
Stick around. I need you. All right. I would entertain a motion then.
I'll also move that we accept Alder Dorf's suggestion.
Okay. Do we have a second? We have a second? No,
is that the correct motion for that?
Let me look here. Possible action. It would be to move it.
Move it forward.
To move it forward to form an ad hoc Election Commission, and to have Barb Dorf as one alder and the second alder as Alder Weary.
I think Randy had a comment.
Okay, Alder Scannell?
Yes, thank you. Couldn't we just refer, the mayor is the one who usually puts together these things, and he'd be the one who would be most in touch with the community to get community members and so on. Couldn't to the mayor's office to put this together ASAP, maybe put some kind of date on it that I don't know how we put this commission together.
Well, I would defer to Alder Dorf as far as how she'd feel on this moving forward, and
Okay.
I'm fine with whatever. Alder Dorf?
My idea would be then to have Alder Weary, myself, Director Teskey, and the mayor. I agree that the mayor would be, we could probably do a lot faster, probably. And that's the whole thing. We need speed. But I'd like Alder Weary. What do you think about the four of us putting it together?
Sounds fine to me.
Motion to approve. Alder Vanderleest.
Okay, motion by Vanderleest. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by LaFave. Any other discussion?
Just to clarify with the committee, that is a motion to approve the request and to form the committee, which would include Alder Dorf, Alder Weary, Clerk Teskey, and the mayor. Correct?
Correct. That's correct.
Would there be any citizens?
Yes. Yes. That's in the motion.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in my my communication. That's all in there.
And we defer to that.
Alder Dorf, would it be just one?
We will defer that up to the four of us. Why don't you let the four of us come up with a good plan, okay?
Okay, good.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, that passes. So, let me know when you're ready to turn it
Yes,
back.
1 minute.
Okay. And like Alder Scannell always says, this will be referred to City Council on May 5th for all you who care.
All right, we are on to item, for some reason, the order
11.
is off in city clerk, but going off the published agenda, we are on item number 11.
All right. Number 11, consideration with possible action on a request by Alder Scannell to pass a resolution to allow municipalities to go to an all-mail voting process for elections. Alder Scannell.
Thank you. I would just like to see this referred to staff so they could come up with something and then perhaps bring that to the council as a whole, because this is, again, a time-sensitive issue. And I would hope that, we could just communicate to the legislature how during the pandemic, we were the only state that had in-person voting, and I don't think we would eliminate it completely, but I think there's steps that could happen, and to make this more of a mail-in election. And I know I've talked to some of our state assembly members, and I know there is a bipartisan group starting to work on this. So I think it would just be a communication to them that, we support this, we urge this. We think the more we can go to a mail-in system during a pandemic, that makes sense. And hopefully other municipalities will also get behind this so that we can affect some kind of change. So I would just recommend that we send this to staff to come up with something that we could look up at a council and then pass on, hopefully unanimously, to the legislature. I don't know why anybody would want to do in-person voting during a pandemic.
Okay, thank you, Alder Scannell. Was there anybody else from any other staff or Alder Weary? Alder Weary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it would be good to perhaps encourage people to vote by absentee, but I don't think we should ever eliminate the chance to vote in person, no matter what the circumstance, because you would be cutting some people out perhaps who didn't get the chance to do it by mail. So I would be against anything that says an all mail-in. So I know this will be coming back to us, but
okay, Alder,
kind of encourage mail-in, but not all mail-in.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Alder Weary. Alder Scannell?
Yes. I agree. All mail-in was just off the top of my head at the time when I wrote the communication, but I think, especially talking to some of the people in the assembly, we wouldn't be eliminating completely. But if we could amend that when we send that to staff, that we encourage going to a comprehensive mail-in voting system as opposed to.
How would you, just for clarification, Alder Scannell, could you, I mean, you have the resolution in front of you, right? Or the agenda item?
Right.
Could you just state it the way you'd like to have it stated then?
To go to a comprehensive mail voting process.
So that's comprehensive doesn't mean, that means that there's still opportunities to do it another way.
I think so, right. It doesn't say all. Yeah, it just means we're going to put great emphasis and weight on the mail-in.
Alder Weary, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I think that's meant specifically during these types of situations, right, Randy? Or are you looking permanent?
Well, I'm looking for during the pandemic, after the pandemic.
Yeah,
we can.
So that makes sense.
Further discussion if we feel that's, whatever. It's basically for the pandemic, definitely. It's after that, we do whatever. It's whatever everybody wants. That's fine by me.
All right. Is there anybody else that wants to weigh in on this?
I just want to make a quick comment.
I heard Gerlach. Alder Gerlach?
Just a question. How would this be, what you're proposing, how would this be different from what we currently have in that anyone can request an absentee ballot? I just don't understand the difference.
Alder Scannell, do you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, because there are things now, for example, we could mail to every registered voter the application. Not that we'd be mailing them the ballot, but we'd be mailing them the application. As I understand it, now we can't do that. So there are steps that can be taken that would help enhance the ability to do more mail-in voting. So it's just a matter of tweaking some state laws at the state level.
Alder Gerlach, does that help, or? Alder Gerlach?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Is that fine? Okay. Thank you. Anybody else?
Alder Vanderleest would like to make comment?
Yes, go ahead, Alder Vanderleest.
I just want to say that, on the, what Overs was all these mail-in absentee ballots, and, she mentioned 17,000 or whatever she mentioned. It's a huge number. I think that, from looking at the whole perspective, I think that we should encourage early voting. A lot of people voted early, like at the bus company here in Green Bay, and, open up those lines as well as far as early voting. And then also, I think we have to have our polls open regardless. And, as far as encourage people if they want to vote by absentee, I think that's great as well. I think that, we should keep the communication channels open that, people are able to vote. And hopefully, by August, I'm hoping that, it's going to look much better for the COVID-19, and maybe things will be a lot more friendly as far as, getting out to vote. And so, but I don't have a real problem with, what you're talking about there, encouraging people to vote absentee. I don't have a problem with it, but I think we still have to have them polls open. I think the State Elections Commission, they have the laws on the books, and I think we got to look at that as well. So I'm fine with what we're talking about here, but I just want to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Vanderleest. Anybody else?
Alder LaFave.
Go ahead, Alder LaFave.
Yes, right now I would not be in favor of the all mail-in voting because look at the problem we had with just 1,700 coming in. This would be impossible. It's taken the state of Washington years to actually have all mail voting because there were a lot of legal things, strategy, different things that they had to do to get a proper system in place. So this is something that we couldn't do at this time. But I do believe that my next one on the reason that we had problems too with the mail-in, this is with the state. But this is something we need to work on. And I also have my suggestion that I'm going to send to Chris Teskey is that we have more satellite in-person early absentee ballot voting. I think that would help a lot so that they're not inundated with too many requests. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Alder LaFave. What Alder Scannell said, though, he was looking at a comprehensive, so it wasn't like all mail in.
Right, he changed it. Mhm.
So, I think that this is a point of discussion that I think that the ad hoc can bring us up to speed, but I think all of us alders are willing to really look at this strongly. So I think we will get good input. So does anybody else have anything to say? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion. Committee?
Motion, yeah.
Okay, and this would be consideration with possible action on a request by Alder Scannell to pass a resolution to allow municipalities to go to a comprehensive voting process for elections. And that word comprehensive includes a number of things.
And we're making a motion to refer this to staff, right?
Right, and then to the committee of the whole, please, because it is kind of time sensitive.
Okay. All right, so somebody make that motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
To
All right,
clarify, that's a motion to refer to staff, correct?
Correct. And then to committee as whole.
And to clarify, for committee of the whole, the purpose of that is specifically for time-sensitive issues. So if a recommendation can be made to committee, it should. If there's not time to get it to committee before council, that's when it would go to committee of the whole.
So you're saying that we can just refer it to staff or committee, or refer it to staff? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and if you guys are saying that you want this time sensitive, we can definitely, so to get it onto committee of the whole, we have to get either the president or the mayor's approval. And if it's included that you would like it to go to committee of the whole, if it's not available for a committee, then that's an option. But as far as sending it to committee of the whole, that's only supposed to be available when there's not time to actually address it. So if it can come back to committee before it goes to committee of the whole, it really should.
So I would ask the committee then, if you don't think it's time sensitive, we can just go according to that route. Is that okay?
Sure.
It's fine.
Okay.
If I may ask Attorney Chavez,
Yep.
if this came back to committee, then it has to go to council. We're looking then that would be probably the second,
Into June?
the end of May or the end of first one of June.
Part of, yeah.
That does cut back. I mean, that doesn't give that communication to the state much time to then work on this. That's how I view it as time sensitive. Am I missing something there?
Yes, because this would either go as part of the committee report to the council. And I don't know if we will have everything finalized by then, since we usually wait until council has made the recommendations to approve. And so if it's ready for council, it'll just be on council as part of the report. Otherwise, it would be going to the next council meeting anyways, and then it would go to.
Okay, thank you. I understand now. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, I think we got it clarified. So the motion was made by Alder Stevens, correct?
Correct.
Yes, seconded by Alder LaFave to refer to staff to pass a resolution to allow a comprehensive mail voting process for elections.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously. I'll give you a second, Attorney Bunger.
Yes, one second.
Let me know when you're ready. Alder Stevens, can you see everybody that's here? I can only see one or two people. So,
Yeah, I can see everybody.
so
Okay. We are on item number 12.
Okay.
Yes.
Number 12, consideration with possible action on a request by Alder LaFave, which states, resolution, the city of Green Bay asked the Wisconsin Election Commission to investigate myvote.gov per the request for absentee ballot failures. Citizens have filled out their requests and not receiving their ballots after weeks of waiting. They went back to check their status only to find out that their request was not there. Therefore, it is imperative that the Wisconsin Election Commission make sure that myvote.gov is ready for the August and November elections and is working properly. Alder LaFave.
I think it pretty well says it right there. I heard from several of my constituents telling me this, and I thought they had, I remember there was problems with the MyVote before. This was a couple of years ago, I think. And I thought they were working on it to fix it. And I know, and I think it was in November, December, when the state, some of them made a request that they had sent out the postcards to people, and they wanted the election commission to disenfranchise a bunch of people because they didn't return their cards, or they felt that the addresses weren't accurate, that they moved, whatever. And so I went in to that site, and I got only a certain way into the site, and I could not go further. Couldn't even find if I was registered. So I still found out that there's still problems, I believe, with the site. So this is something I think we need to move forward with, because this is what helped with what happened to a lot of people who did not get their ballots in time because they were not aware that they weren't even in the system. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody else that wants to weigh in? Alder Stevens?
I just want to make one comment.
I have a question.
Oh, hold on a second. Alder Stevens first, and then Alder Vanderleest.
Would this be a city issue level or a county or state issue?
Alder LaFave?
Well, this would be a
Chris,
city.
someone?
Or Chris? Yeah. If somebody
Yeah, someone from the law department.
Yeah. Go ahead. Attorney Chavez?
So the My Vote is run by the state, so it would be a state issue. Whether or not people are making requests of them is independent. So I don't see any issue with us asking the WEC to look into My Vote's capabilities and whether it's meeting the needs of voters in Green Bay. So I think that a resolution on this would be appropriate, yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Craig. Alder Stevens.
Barb would like to talk.
Oh, Barb. Alder Dorf.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that I did happen to go into Wisconsin Eye, and I did watch the Wisconsin Elections Commission and the entirety of their meeting, and that is actually something that they discussed at length. That there were concerns. Some voters reported not receiving the ballots. They weren't in the system. It was not consistent across all the state branches, but there were problems across the state for vote by mail. So I know that they, in their meeting, already determined that they need to look at this. I don't think the resolution hurts, but I think it's good to know that they're on top of it already and they realized that there was a problem.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you, Alder Dorf. I mean, I listened to that meeting as well, and there was a lot that was brought forward. So, Alder LaFave, or is there anybody else?
Alder Vanderleest,
I do
want to make
believe
one
that
comment.
Sorry, Alder LaFave, please hold on. Alder Vanderleest.
Okay.
I just want to mention that I talked to different constituents, and I think a lot of them didn't fill out the request properly, and our Clerk Chris Teskey mentioned that as well, that, if you miss one little word or whatever, one little space, you get rejected or you don't get your ballot sent. So I think a lot of it has to do with the mechanics of that as well. And hopefully they'll look into that, they are on top of that. But a lot of it is, some of it is people that are doing it, they couldn't get it done. for whatever reason. If you're not total computer savvy, it might be a challenge. So maybe they can, you know, what we're trying to propose is a good idea. You know, a person that's actually signing up, you know, for that myvote.gov, you know, that's great. You know, I think that simplicity is great. So let's hope they get it done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Attorney Chavez, I was just going to ask, is this something, if we put a resolution together, is this something that your office would work on, or is that something that you would need some help from others?
We would work on it in conjunction with the clerk's office.
Okay. Is there anything as far as suggestions that you would take from us for that or not?
Yes, if you guys have suggestions, we always incorporate those into it. Otherwise, if you want us to look into what the problems are that we've identified, or
Right.
the clerk has identified, we can definitely do that.
Okay, thank you. Who wanted to speak? Was there somebody else out there? Alder LaFave, did you want to say something else?
No, I just felt that, yes, we should definitely send something to the state. Just letting them, you know, it's like a
Right.
little push to make sure that they finish what they had spoke at their meeting.
Well, I would suggest to the committee and to council members that if they wanted to send some information to Attorney Chavez and to Clerk Teske on this matter, I would appreciate that, and I think it would be helpful. So I would entertain a motion here.
Make a motion to send to staff.
Okay, by Stevens. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Vanderleest. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That passes. And I'll wait for Attorney Bunger.
We are on item number 13.
Okay. Number 13, consideration with possible action on a request by Alder Weary to request the Wisconsin Elections Commission investigate the administration of the election and conduct of officials for April 7th, 2020, and report its findings to the Green Bay Common Council. Alder Weary. Alder Weary?
Alder Weary, you need to unmute your microphone.
Thought you could read lips. I was so profound. I don't know if I could say that again. Okay. I said we had a really robust discussion at City Council, and we fleshed through some of this. And I look forward to the ad hoc committee. I think we're going to get some solid ways to move forward. I do feel, however, we owe it to our residents to have an independent review. Let the experts look at it. My suggestion only would be for a request from the City of Green Bay City Council for a thorough review of the administration of the failed April 7th, 2020 election and report back irregularities, failures, and improvement opportunities. That's what I'm looking for. I had emailed everybody on the committee, and I can get it to the people on the council as well. I haven't had that chance. I put together a 2-page timeline of information I managed to get from the State Elections Commission and from the county clerk, kind of day by day, different things that happened in the state and at the county and at the city, and different communications that went back and forth. It's pretty interesting reading, but I think we just need an outside body to look at it and give us their opinion.
All right. Is there anybody else that wants to weigh in? Thank you, Alder Weary.
Alder Dorf.
Alder Dorf. Go ahead, Alder Dorf.
Thank you. Alder Weary, I'm assuming that you also probably watched the Wisconsin Elections Commission. But for those of you that didn't, I did watch it, and I do just have concerns. I know that she doesn't mind an investigation. She doesn't feel there's anything to hide. My concerns come from listening to how they voted. And item B, which if anyone wants to go back and they don't want to listen to all of it, comes about an hour and 4 minutes into the meeting. Item B is to look at the Green Bay and Milwaukee consolidation. And certainly they spent much time, one person did it at least, talking about Milwaukee because he'd been on the Elections Commission in Milwaukee, so he was very concerned about Milwaukee. But this item was Green Bay and Milwaukee. And, I can say that at times one person said, I'm not interested in having a witch hunt on 2 clerks, that they want people to be safe. Then another, the comment for the WEC to investigate, to have that role. And the answer was, they're charged with overseeing the clerks. It's a complaint-driven organization. A person could file a complaint against a clerk, but they have never before, at the statement of the chair, investigated in general an election. So then it came to vote, and that was, about an hour and 30 minutes into the meeting, it came to vote. So they discussed this for about an hour on the motion to investigate, and that vote failed. It was 3-3, and the vote failed. And so the commission, it seemed, already made a determination that they were not going to investigate. So that is why I wanted to bring that forward and say that that's a concern I had just from watching it. Perhaps someone has an answer to that.
Oh,
sure.
Alder Weary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I did watch that. It was, kind of a painful meeting to watch, or to listen to, I guess, and watch. I actually called and spoke with the chairman, Dean Knutson, to get some clarification on his thoughts, not speaking on behalf of his commission. And their board is very averse, very, very averse to instigating investigations or looking at things. And that's why it went down that way. They said if they receive complaints, they treat it much differently. Then that request came from one of their members to investigate it. And they don't want that because we've had problems in the past with some election boards kind of going crazy investigating people, and they want it to be complaint basis only. So that's how he explained it.
Well, thank you, Alder Weary. Alder Dorf, I listened to that meeting as well, 2.5, 3 hours. And I think the commission would have said, okay, let's just look at this logistically. What happened? What were the issues that happened? Things that broke down, and they basically threw it out. So in a sense, we got no answers. And even though they made a decision, it still was one of, well, what did happen? And I've been doing a lot of research on this. I know you have, Alder Weary has, a number of us have looked up many things on this. And I think logistically speaking, I'm interested just to see what did happen, and let's not let it happen again and move forward. But it's like anything else. There is accountability and there's responsibility for things, and the mayor has taken accountability for it. But regardless, I still think it's important to at least understand what the process was over a period of a month and a half or so between the county and the city and the state, and all the things that happened or didn't happen. Just for clarification, like I said, I have 55 citizens that emailed me, and actually I got 37 responses, and I would like to give that to the committee, to the ad hoc committee, just to see what their views were and their thoughts were. And there is no way that a voter is going to know everything that is going on behind the scenes. We don't even know. So, people say it's a witch hunt. I don't look at it like that. I look at it as a means of gathering data and trying to understand what happened. And the WEC, we listened for a long time and we didn't get any answers from them. So anyway, I'd like others to chime in if they would like. Anybody else? Pardon?
Vanessa.
Alder Dorf had her hand raised first. Alder Dorf?
Well, actually, I was going to ask kind of about the legalities of it. Like, does it cost something to do this? And then do we have attorneys? So maybe I'll let Vanessa talk.
Okay.
Attorney Chavez, go ahead.
Okay, Attorney Chavez.
Thank you, Alder. So I did look into what is needed in order to file a complaint. As you guys noted, this is a complaint driven. The commission can either do it independently or it can be based on a complaint filed. Any elector has the authority to do it. Now, the requirements in filing a complaint is that we have to actually allege what actions we believe were conducted contrary to law, or what abuse of discretion actually occurred. So we aren't able to just ask them to just look into it and see what happened. We actually have to identify specific things we felt were wrong with it and ask them to investigate those wrongdoings on the part of the city. Now, the second component of that is that, so not only do we have to actually make the allegations, we also have to set forth the facts and any supporting documents which we may have. Now, what's I think most instructive is that the relief that's available when the commission actually investigates this is not to provide an evaluation to anybody. Like, they don't come back and tell you, here's what we found. Instead, they either require an election official to conform his or her conduct to law, or they restrain an official from taking action inconsistent with law, or they require an official to correct any action or decision that's inconsistent with law. So this is not just an investigation to have some determinations made, or not determinations, but evaluations made as to what we could have done better or done wrong. It's actually an investigation into alleged misconduct, alleged essentially wrongdoings, and we have to actually provide facts identifying that basis. So if you guys are going to file a complaint, if that's going to be the recommendation, then the council needs to actually have identified those issues, those specific facts which we believe are contrary to law. Now, the last thing that I do feel it is important for you all to be aware of is that if an election official is aggrieved, if it comes back and they determine that an election official did something wrong, then that is appealed to the circuit court. And then in that instance, we have an obligation, because everything that's done related to the election is within an official capacity. We have an obligation to defend that person as the city. So it's going to be a really weird situation where we're asking to investigate something so we can determine whether or not we're at fault, and then potentially have to defend those actions anyways in a court case.
Well, Attorney Chavez. I was going to ask Alder Burnett. Are you there, Alder Burnett?
I am, yes.
You've listened to all this. Do you have any thoughts or on this?
I'm listening to the discussion, and what Attorney Chavez just said is clarifies the situation. But my position has always been that the process, the way we administered the election, did not allow someone to effectively and efficiently vote for the representative that they want in their government. So for me, I can't allege any criminal wrongdoing. That would be quite a leap to make. But I do think that we should have an outside investigation or review of our election. But what Attorney Chavez just stated is news to me, so I need to think about it a little more, what the city's best response would be. So with that, I'll listen to the rest of the conversation. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other alders? Alder LaFave, go ahead. Go ahead, Alder.
Yes. At the council, I listened at the council meeting. I listened to Clerk Teske, and I think she laid it out very well. All the things that happened, and it was like a snowball, just rolling. All these things happened, and it was almost minute by minute trying to make adjustments and try to get this election done that it was almost impossible, all the things that happened. And I think they were so overwhelmed. And I think Clerk Teske is someone who is really adheres to the law, to the regulations, everything that needs to be done in an election. I think she was so cognitive of that she did not want to make a mistake, and that could have been brought up, and then the election could have been nullified or whatever. She was so careful what she was trying to do, and it was almost impossible for her to do anything different than what happened. It wasn't, I would never put blame on her. I never put blame on the mayor. I would never put blame on anyone. This is something that it was almost out of, I think, our control of what happened. I know it was terrible what happened to all these people. And I had people who told me they couldn't vote. So I know how terrible this was. And I know how important to vote, how important that is. I used to be a special deputy registered deputy to the state to register people. So I understand this. And thank God I was able to vote. I got my absentee ballot in time. But I just think that, I don't know, I don't like the way it's worded in a way. It's almost like saying that someone did something wrong. And I don't think anybody did anything wrong. I just think they were trying to get this election done, and they couldn't stop it. It had to go forward, and it just didn't work out right. And I think the ad hoc committee, this is something I think that they can look at. That they should looking at what happened and how we can make sure this doesn't happen again. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. I wanted to make a suggestion. With this ad hoc committee coming up, myself personally, I've taken many pages of notes, from the election and from citizens and that. I'm more than willing to give that all over to the committee, and there's no right or wrong. These are the things that came up to me. And, I think the more that we can bring to the table that way, I think the better it'll be. I don't know if Alder Weary, if this is a time sensitive type of thing that you're looking for, or if you're willing to look at gathering data from all of the alders and others that might want to chime in on this. I think the ad hoc committee will be put together and we'll have citizens and the four that we talked about. I think that's a good group. I think it would be great for us to give the information that we already have to that committee and then proceed from there. That's just my thought right now. Is anybody else?
Sure.
Alder Weary?
Yeah, I will, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Well, certainly, and I don't know if Attorney Chavez is still there or not. I don't know. Attorney, did you reach out to the Wisconsin Election Commission, or is that your read of how their guidelines are?
I'm reading directly from the statute.
So you didn't reach out to them per se and ask, hey, if we sent this to you, would you look at it? All right, so that's something between now and next council. I'd be glad to reach out to the director, Megan Wolf, or to the chairman and ask if we sent this to you, is it even something you'd look at? Because I don't want to rely on our interpretation of it. I'm going to get it right from them. If they say no, well, then I don't know what use they are. But because you can ask if an election is not administered correctly. If it's not administered correctly, that can raise a question. You're not necessarily saying someone's doing something illegal, but you are saying that, hey, this wasn't administered right. Can you look at it? That's clearly in there.
But Kurt, to give you the exact language from the statute, it says if election administration or conduct of elections is contrary to law.
Such as closing early voting. I believe we had that happen. But looking at the timeline, and I will get this to everyone because it's clear there were, some bad decisions made when other cities such as Appleton made good decisions. And sometimes it was unclear of who made the decision. I don't know if it was the mayor, Clerk Teske, or Chief of Staff Jeffries, because it's all over the board. If it's all right, Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to read a couple.
You may.
All right, thanks. Starting on March 16th, the Wisconsin Election Commission issued guidance to all clerks: contingency planning and emergency preparedness. Prepare for absences by recruiting and maintaining a list of poll workers. High school and college students, good pool. Poll worker training available online. That was March 16th. Then on March 20th, the Wisconsin Election Commission issued a sample news release for poll worker recruitment to all clerks, encouraging them to put out a call for election inspectors. 3 days later, March 23rd, the Wisconsin Election Commission issued a reminder on poll worker training and how you can do it online. On the 24th of March, Mayor Genrich directed the city of Green Bay to sue the state of Wisconsin. Lack of poll workers cited as one reason. On the 26th, Brown County Clerk's Office emailed Clerk Teske stating they heard polling locations may be changing and the public informational webpage needs to be updated. Clerk Teske replies, I have no clue. I don't have enough poll workers and the polling locations are canceling on a daily basis. On the 26th, same day, I had emailed Clerk Teske volunteering to be a poll worker and asked how and where I can encourage people to sign up and help if the city has let the public know we need help. I got an email back from Chief of Staff Celestine Jeffrey stating at this time, we aren't taking volunteers to polls. Some of our polling locations have pulled out. The clerk's office is focusing on processing absentee ballots. I emailed back and pressed on why we're not recruiting. And Celestine said, I considered this 2 weeks ago. The issue is putting anyone in danger and the lack of polling locations. The next day, the Green Bay lawsuit was dismissed in federal court. The day after that, March 28th, discussion began with the Green Bay School District regarding use of schools as polling locations. Then on April 1st, Governor Evers directed the National Guard to help. And the Press Gazette had an article that Green Bay was cutting its polling down from 31 to 4. I emailed Clerk Teske asking, is this true? We're going down to 4. And the reply was she did not have an answer to that question. Then later on that day, a memorandum of understanding was signed between the Green Bay School District and City of Green Bay for use of all 4 high schools. This was signed by Mayor Genrich and Superintendent Langenfeld April 1st, later signed April 3rd by The next day, April 2nd, the top WEC administrator, Megan Wolf, and her assistant admin, Richard Radecki, called the City of Green Bay to discuss staffing needs for Election Day. They could not reach the clerk and spoke with the mayor's chief of staff. All parties agreed at least 60 poll workers would be provided on Election Day. That's on April 2nd. That was at 12:59 p.m. At 4:46 p.m., the City of Green Bay announced reduction from 31 polling locations to 2 on its official city Facebook page. So same day, a couple hours later. On the 5th of April, Brown County Clerk Sandy Juneau communicated to Mayor Genrich, reminding that the city has at least 48 trained National Guard members ready to assist. Offer declined. Then on April 6th, 3:12 p.m., on the city's Facebook page and website, Mayor Genrich signs a resolution to suspend in-person voting. Now that Facebook page was not updated or removed as say voting was back on once the Supreme Court had overturned it. I don't know about the city webpage. And on Election Day, Mayor Genrich posted, if you're voting today, please take every precaution, respect social distancing, and if you're sick, stay home. And I know there were notes after that by the county clerk that it wasn't a failure of COVID-19, but mismanagement. So these are just some of the notes. I have a lot of others.
All right. Thank you, Alder Wery. Is there anybody that wants to?
Alder Gerlach.
Alder Stevens?
No, Alder Gerlach should be.
Oh, Alder Gerlach.
Thank you. And I wasn't going to speak. This isn't my committee, but I was so encouraged by listening to Alder Lefebvre. And I'm happy to hear someone, say some positive things about the situation. As I listen, it seems to me that there's a dichotomy here. There's 2 ways of looking at this. And you've already established a committee that's going to look into working with the clerk to make sure the next elections are good and are viable and are run the way they're supposed to go. The other side seems to be an attempt to lay blame and hold someone accountable. And I think what's not talked about is the fact that this was a pandemic that no one ever dealt with before in our lifetimes, and that I think we have a city clerk who has run the elections for 8 years, if I've got that correct. And I just think that maybe the energy should go into that committee you already formed to make the next elections better. And so then let's see, they're talking about doing this fast. Then let's see what they come up with. And then let's see if it's necessary to do an investigation and lay blame. That's my suggestion.
Thank you. Thank you, Alder Gerlach. Anybody else?
Alderdorf.
Alderdorf. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just also want to support Alder Kathy Lefebvre. I really enjoyed everything that she said. I agreed with everything that she said, and I appreciated that she spoke out. So thank you, Alder Lefebvre.
Okay, thank you, Alderdorf. Alder Stevens?
I will have to also agree with Alder Lefebvre. Everything she stated, I also feel the same way. I also do feel that the mayor has already made his comment that he is taking 100% responsibility for what happened during this election period. Right now, I think we are making the right direction with Alderdorf to move forward with this committee to help out with the elections in November. And I also think Chris did a lot that was given to her during this pandemic. So I have to thank her as well. And I understand that there was a lot of people that weren't able to vote during this election. I feel sorry for that. I had three people that reached out to me that was not happy that they were how the election went. But I think we're moving forward so that this does not happen again in November. So I would not support moving Chris Weary's suggestion forward.
Okay, is there anybody else from the committee that would like to speak?
Alder Randy.
Alder Lefebvre.
Randy.
Alder Scannell? Alder Scannell?
Yeah, there. I clicked it and it didn't go off. There we go. I'm live now.
Good.
I would just like to also, I think what Alder Lefebvre said is accurate. And also, I was going to stress, as Alder Gerlach did, the biggest thing here is pandemic. Without a pandemic, we'd have had an election like we've had in the past. We wouldn't have had these issues, but we had a pandemic. We had over 95% of our poll workers steadily pull out. We had polling places steadily closed down. Any decision that with 2020 hindsight, we look at and say, well, maybe that wasn't the right decision, at the time was not made with any malfeasance, with any conniving for any kind of gain of any kind of sort from anybody or enrichment or whatever. There's nothing that I would see that's culpable. And one thing I wanted to hear as far as going forward with this is specifics. I mean, as far as I can, all the information we've got, I think has been answered. There aren't any questions left for me. I'd like to know what other questions are left. What do we need to know that we don't know? What do we need verified that we don't believe? That our poll workers steadily went down, that the poll places steadily exited. There's and the last thing I want to stress is, before I forget it, the integrity of an election. I seem to recall, I don't remember who said it, but there was during one of the past conversations about the standards that Chris Teskey had, that she was too high, her standards were too high. Well, her standards are high, and that's what we want, because that ensures the integrity of an election. And that's very important. If we don't have integrity, that opens the door to corruption and malfeasance. I think there's just absolutely no evidence of that. And without any specific issues brought up, that someone to bring up that we haven't already answered, I don't know what we would go forward with. And certainly now knowing what we know from Attorney Chavez, we not only need specifics, but some documentation of some sort. I just don't see how this makes any sense going forward, or how it's helpful going forward. We've asked for a report. We've got the report. We've got this ad hoc committee going. I just don't know what more we can. I feel like we're starting to beat a dead horse. I just don't see any point in looking back and doing what that we don't already know, that we can't already use going forward to try and avoid this in the future. But I think any election during a pandemic is going to be problematical. I mean, hopefully it's not going to be like it was, but pandemics, I mean, look how it's disrupted all our lives. Look how it's disrupted workings of City Hall.
Okay.
I believe we're going forward the best we can. I believe there was no or corruption or wrongdoing on anybody's part. And I would just like to see us to start looking forward instead of keep finger pointing around here.
All right. Thank you, Alder. Thank you.
One last comment.
Alder Burnett.
Alder Wery, can you hold on? Alder Burnett?
Yeah, thank you.
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
I'm not interested in which, that's why I said I can't allege any criminal neglect or wrongdoing. Any action of any of our election officials, that is a heck of an accusation to make. I don't have that. But I will say, I'll tell you this, if one person, aside from what happened in this election, in future elections, if one voter in this city was disenfranchised, who showed up at the polls and couldn't vote in an election, if one person was not guaranteed their right to vote, that's a pretty big thing that we cannot let happen. So let's not forget that regardless of where the blame lies or who accepted blame or responsibility, it is possible that hundreds, perhaps a few thousand, we don't know the exact numbers, people who showed up at the polls, West High School, East High School, or showed up to City Hall to vote in person when our building was shut to visitors, those are people that did not have an opportunity to vote. And it was because of the administration of our election. I'm not going to throw anyone under the tracks or anything like that, but I need to know what happened. And I can investigate this, but I'm too close to the situation to give a good, unbiased opinion. Therefore, we ask the professionals to do it. And now the Wisconsin Elections Commission can say, no, we're not going to accept your request as a city council to investigate the election. It's not improper. It's not complete. Put that on them then. Put that on them. I need to clear my conscience to say, okay, one person may not have been able to vote because of what the city did. Hundreds, perhaps thousands, were denied the right to vote in an election. And I understand it was COVID. I understand it was coronavirus, and I understand all those things. But according to the Wisconsin Election Commission's meeting, 1,850 municipalities in the state of Wisconsin did not experience the lines that we had. Milwaukee and Green Bay, those are it. So let's take a step back and realize the same people who want to move forward and move on, I understand that, and so do I. But if we do not at least request an outside investigation of an election, clear our consciences, this election will be forever stained. This will be a stain on our clean record of good elections in the city of Green Bay. All we need to do is request an outside investigation. If they say, what proof do you have of wrongdoing? Any alderman, I make that accusation, or they could dig deeper. Or I'll tell you what, any constituent out there who has some reason to believe that something was not completely ethical and proper, they could make that charge. But as a council, I just want to be able to say, okay, we're too close to it. We got the mayor's explanation, we got the city clerk's explanation, but we need someone to look at this and say, this is what happened, this is what was wrong. I think anyone who doesn't at least make that attempt, I think is doing a great injustice to everyone who showed up to vote that was turned around because they couldn't wait in the line. Their health was failing. They were concerned. The lack of communication from the city on. So I'm going to vote for, but when this, whatever the committee decides, I'm hoping you at least say, we're going to put this to the Wisconsin Election Commission. If they think our request is invalid or not complete, then that's on them. But we need to not have this on us. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, all right. Alder Wery, were you going to say something else?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Alder Burnett, or President Burnett, sorry, I can't genuflect. There we go. President Burnett stated it perfectly, I think. Let's move this on to them, and if they deny it, that's on them. I mean, I'll gladly reach out to the Wisconsin Election Commission again and ask, how would you like this presented? Because we're not looking to paint plain blame. We want you to look at it and tell us what happened here. As I think it was, there was a citizen who spoke, I think it was Elliot Christensen, spoke at our last council meeting, and he said that we're so busy patting each other back, telling us each other how great of a job we did. And he was sickened by that, and I think he wanted to say more, but he was out of time. When you listen to that meeting with the Wisconsin Election Commission, the director, Megan Wolf, did point out specifically she had 1,850 municipalities do an admirable job, and she had 2 failures, Green Bay and Milwaukee. So that tells me it's not the pandemic, it's some kind of management issue. Maybe our standard rating operating procedures aren't good, but something happened there. And boy, I know you others, maybe you haven't received the complaints. Maybe those of us who have spoken out are the lightning rod for those, but I know I've received them. Let's pass this on to them, and if they say no, well, that's on them. But we need some answers here.
Okay, is there anybody else?
Alder Dorf.
I'd like to make a comment, President Stoyer.
Alder Vanderleest and Alder Dorleest.
Can you hear me there?
Yes. Go ahead.
I would make a motion that we ask for the request of Alder Wery for the Wisconsin Election Commission to investigate another good opportunity, maybe with something from their investigation. And if they don't want to handle it, then at least we did our duty as far as presenting it to them. And maybe we can learn something from what they come up with, something that we don't see, that they'll have more experience as far as looking into it. And I feel that wouldn't do any harm to have the Wisconsin Election Commission investigate and give us their opinion. And if they don't want to handle it, then, at least we did our duty. So that's my request and that's my motion. Thank you.
Okay, do we have a second?
Do I still get to
Alder
speak?
Dorf. Alder Dorf, go ahead.
Thank you. So Alder Wery, you provided in your communication 5.06. So I quick printed this off, and I think it's what Attorney Chavez said already. But if we do this, it says we have to set forth such facts within the knowledge of the complainant to show probable cause to believe that a violation of law or abuse of discretion has occurred or will occur. Just say investigate the election. We have to say here is the violation of law or the abuse of the discretion, and have relevant supporting documents. This isn't just like, hey, could you guys investigate this? This is like, hey, somebody did this wrong. This is what our complaint is based on. Here's the supporting documents to show that we did it wrong. So I haven't heard that we're wanting to do that. I haven't heard anybody say that somebody did violate the law. In fact, I've heard just the opposite. I think it would be well worth all of your whiles to look at what Alder Wery had put and then to run 5.06 and to see what is all involved when you file a complaint. I'm glad this was brought to my attention, but there's a lot more to it than just saying, hey, could you guys come over here and investigate? There seems to be.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alder Lefebvre.
Alder Lefebvre, go ahead.
Yes, I concur with Alder Dorf. Yeah, right. We can't point any malfeasance, violation of the law. I don't think we have nothing that we can put down to have the Wisconsin Election Commission to look into. They're just going to, if we said, oh, just investigate, they're going to say right away, what? Tell us what you need us to investigate. So I think that's a moot point. But I want to go back to one thing that I thank Alder Weary for his timeline of all the things, but one thing that he had stated that our Governor Evers had mentioned about the 48 National Guard units. The thing is, the Guard units, the ones who were trained and wanted to volunteer to help with the elections, had to be in your district. And Chris Teskey said she had one came forward. She said she was trained and she did work at West High. That's all she had that came forward. So that part, I will say, is not a valid point.
That's not true, Kathy. You're wrong on that.
That's what Dr. Chris said.
Alder Weary, just go ahead, Kathy. Just finish off, then you can rebut. Go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah, okay. Then I'd like to hear from Alder Weary what's wrong.
Okay, Alder Weary.
I put it right in there when the Wisconsin Election Commission called on, what do I have on there, April 1st? And they spoke with Celestine Jeffries. Both parties agreed they'd have at least 60. Then Sandy Juneau, the county clerk, followed up and said, hey, we've got people ready to go, and they're all from Brown County or Green Bay. They all qualify to be helpers. So they were there.
They're working good.
They don't have to be from our little individual district, Kathy.
Okay, that's all right.
Does Chris Teskey want to?
I was wondering. Chris, did you want to speak?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
So it was decided, by whoever that, we would go down, it was decided we go down to 2 polling locations. So I had enough poll workers to take care of those polling locations. When I got to work that morning, there was a girl outside waiting. And one of the election techs says, she's waiting for you. She's from the National Guard. And I said, oh, so I went out to talk to her. And I said, you were assigned to the city of Green Bay? She said, yep. And I said, the city, right? Yep. I said, oh, okay, good. I said, I can assign you. So do you know where West High is? Well, she's actually from Appleton, but she said she could find West High. I gave her directions and she did work there. And we also did use some volunteers. So we did, because at that time, I didn't know until the Sunday before that we could have the National Guard. And come to find out, not all of them got trained. And there's an email out there to Sandy Juneau stating that. So I just wanted to clarify, we did have one from the National Guard.
If I could, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Chris, did you have any conversations with Celestine Jeffries on April 2nd when the Wisconsin Election Commission called in and said, hey, we're going to have 60 people for you?
I don't have my documentation in front of me. The first I heard National Guard way before, when they thought they could come in and do labels, but they weren't certified for that. First time I heard then that we could have somebody was on that Sunday, late in the afternoon.
Because as I had put in my timeline, April 2nd, 12:59 p.m., the top administrators for the WEC called in and said, hey, how many people do you need? And they couldn't reach you, so they spoke to Celestine. And it was agreed upon that 60 would be fine. But then a couple hours later, we shut it down to 2 anyway. That's the puzzling thing. Who's getting this information? Who's making the decisions to go down to 2? It sounds like you didn't even put it near the clerk. Did you decide to go to 2? Was that the mayor? I mean, this is part of the problem here. We told the WEC we'd have 4 at least, and
you don't have a complete timeline, Alder Weary, but I don't have all that in front of me, and
Well, it would
I
help if
talked
we had a
about the
written
whole
account.
thing.
We did ask for, I asked for a written account. You gave us kind of a long, ongoing verbal account, but how many of us are good? And a written account would have been good. So I did as much as I could with what resources I have.
Okay. Director Teske, are you finished? Do you have anything else? Chris?
No, I do not.
Okay. So.
Alder Lefebvre.
Okay, go ahead, one more time, go ahead.
Yes, I think this is all things that, as we can't forward this to the Wisconsin Election Commission, I think this should be discussed at the ad hoc. Alder Weary's going to be there, and he's going to bring all his stuff that he has. Chris Teske's going to be there. The mayor's going to be there. Alder Barb Dorf. And then we're going to have some citizens, concerned citizens who will also be there. And I think they're going to hash all this out, and we're going to find out what happened. I think with that, I think this is the only way we can move forward on this. Otherwise, we're going to be talking about for hours on this. I mean, we're going to go round and round and round, and we're not going to get any thing done on this. I think this just should go to the ad hoc committee, and we've got to move forward on this. Thank you.
Alder Burnett.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Thank you again for allowing so many people to speak multiple times. Well, I appreciate that. It's an important issue. Yes. It's not about us. It's not about the people within city administration or alders. It's about the people who are not given the right to vote in person or an absentee ballot. Clerk Teske, I have a ton of respect for her and the mayor, but somewhere along the line, something happened and people were not given their right to vote in an election if they didn't want to wait over 4 hours. It's not about us. It's not about, anything like that. It's about the people who are not given the right to vote in an election for the leaders who would be making their decisions. Let's stop talking about, this person did that and they give this explanation. It's not about us. It's about the people who didn't have the right to vote in their elections. That's their constitutional right. And in this country, we should take very seriously. People have died all over the world to defend that right to vote. Somewhere along the way, something happened. I'm not going to go as far as to say someone was criminal or negligent or anything like that. I'm in no position to make that determination. But the professionals who do this, who have been appointed by our state government to do these investigations and to make those determinations, they need a report from this city council. And if this city council doesn't act, then some people in the community will probably press forward with a request. Those are the calls I've been getting. People say there's accountability they expect in government. And to keep talking about this person did that or we did the best we could and it's a virus, I get all that. But it's not about us. It's not the people in this government. It's about the people this government belongs to. The people this government belongs to could not vote because someone, somehow, some way messed up in this city government. So stop talking about how, we're trying to move forward. I want to move forward too, but the only way you can move forward if there's a full accounting of what happened and an investigation of what happened. So with that, I thank you, Chairman.
All right, we're going to start. I think we've got to start wrapping this up a little bit. Alder Scannell, and then we got to keep moving forward here. Alder Scannell.
I'll make this quick. I agree. It's horrible. People didn't vote. I know people didn't vote. It's terrible. Pandemic. And fine if you want this investigation. I'm not necessarily against the investigation. I'm against this. It's almost like a fishing expedition. If there was something specific, if we can nail down something specific with some documentation that we need investigated by the election board, fine. But I just don't think we can just cast a net and say, investigate us. And as far as I can tell, we looked into this. We've got information. we can go through this. Is there something specific? And I'm asking anybody, and if
Well,
that's something,
Alder Scannell?
I'll support that. But give me some specific with some documentation of what we need specifically investigated that we don't know, that we don't have verified.
You brought that up. You brought that up already, Alder Scannell.
And that, just want to emphasize. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. Well, everybody keeps lighting up the lights, and this is a tough one. And I have what Alder Wery had said as far as a recommendation. I don't know if you want me to read that, Alder Wery.
Sure. I don't know what it hurts to ask, right?
Okay. Well, this is a request. This is a request from Alder Wery, and the request is from the Green Bay City Council for a thorough review of the administration of the failed April 7th, 2020 election and report back any irregularities, failures, and improve opportunities. So would that be a motion that you would be looking for? Is that something that you would?
Right. Yeah. Send it to them if they want to kick it back. Well, God bless.
Go ahead.
Chairman Steuer.
Yes, go ahead.
Alder Vanderleest made a motion to that effect. There's not a second on that.
Okay. Yeah, you're correct. Thank you. Alder Vanderleest, you did make a motion?
That's correct.
Did we have a second on that? Can you repeat your motion?
Request that the Wisconsin Election Commission would investigate the election that was held in Green Bay on April 7th and report back to the city council what their findings were. My thoughts are that whatever they'll look at the situation, if they decide to take it on, and they can give us some suggestions and we can move forward from there. And I'm all about moving forward. And I think this isn't a bad idea to let them take a look at it. They might give us some good pointers, some good ideas that we might have missed. That's
okay. All right. Duly noted. Did we have a second on that? I will second for discussion. So I would like.
There was no second.
There was no second. I will second it. I will second that. So then, with that being said, I would ask for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All
No.
opposed?
No.
And?
Alder Steuer, I would recommend a roll call vote.
A roll call vote, okay.
I can
Go
call
ahead.
the names. Alder Stevens,
No.
Alder Vanderleest,
Aye.
Alder Steuer,
Aye.
Alder LaFave.
No.
Okay, that fails. That fails on a vote of 2-2.
I'm sure we'll talk about it next week.
Well, I'm sure. Well, here's my
Well,
suggestion.
my thought.
Go ahead, Alder Stevens.
Well, Attorney Chavez is pointing that we need proof that there was some failure in this election law.
That's her interpretation.
But also Barbara Thorpe.
Alder Wery. Hold
Ask them to investigate it.
Alder Wery, please hold on. Alder Stevens? Are you finished, Alder Stevens?
Yeah, what Chavez says, we need to have proof that there was a violation in this law. As of right now, I'm not seeing that there's any proof that there was a violation of this law.
Well,
I think our vote's done, really.
Yeah, the vote's
Really, we're done
done.
with this item, right? So,
Yes. Okay, we have to move on.
hold it for next week, Alder Stevens. Hold your fire. You can
Okay.
explain to people why you don't want to investigate it.
Okay, Alder Wery,
Good luck with
please.
that.
That's not the
Alder Wery.
problem. We can investigate this internally.
Please. Hey.
Oh, Randy. Randy's giving me the finger.
What?
Ethics complaint. At least you can't poke me. I'm not next to you.
Hey, people, please, civility. I'm begging, civility.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like an apology from Alder Scannell for giving me the finger.
If you think I was giving you the finger, I apologize. I was scratching my eye.
I'm sure you were, Randy. I'm sure you were.
But
I'm sure you were.
Yep.
Well, everybody
You
saw it,
accept
so
my apology?
they can make
Keep
their.
it classy. I do, Randy. I
right.
accept your apology.
Okay.
All right.
Everybody saw it. You can make your own opinion. So what's next? Attorney Bunger?
I think we are on adjournment. That was the last item.
What about informational?
Oh, yes, you are correct. I'm sorry. We have the liquor violation report.
Lieutenant?
There are no violations during this time.
Yippee. Thank you much. All right, I'd like to have someone make a motion to receive and place on file.
Motion to receive and place on file. Alder
By
Vanderleest.
Vanderleest, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by LaFave, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion to adjourn. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, LaFave, do we have a second? By Van Aye?
Second.
Aye.
Thank you all for your input.
Okay, thank you very much.